My first son is 11 and my daughter is 9. I don't see what is doing on Instagram or TikTok or even on Facebook as far as I'm concerned.
Instead of stopping them from going to where there's harm, I believe in preparing them for where harm is. So I'm not going to say to my child, don't go into the kitchen because you get hurt. No. I would say when you go into the kitchen, these are the things that you need to do.
We have a bit of a liberal household and they go to my nieces and nephews' schools and all of that, and all of them have encountered pornography videos, and I had no idea. That is why for me, I'm like, how much do you really want?
Education should actually be our first point of call, and then the second part is for how to minimize the exposure. So for me, it's a two-way approach. Number one, the value system from the home. How are you educating the children? You need to let them know. Then number two is what's our own capacity?
Hello everyone, welcome to a special edition of Be Inspired with me, Wumi Olabute. This is the place to be educated, informed, motivated, and most importantly, to be inspired. Social media websites are common among the most activities of today's children and adolescents. Any website that allows social interaction is considered a social media site, including social networking sites such as Facebook, MySpace, and Twitter. Gaming site, YouTube, and blog. Such sites offer today's youth a portal for entertainment and communication and have grown exponentially in recent years. For this reason, it is important that parents become aware of the nature of social media sites, given that not all of them are healthy environments for children. Using social media becomes a risk for children more often than most adults realize. Most may fall into the following category: peer-to-peer, inappropriate content, lack of understanding of online privacy, and outside influences of third-party adverts. For this reason, I invite three parents to share their opinion about the impact on social media among the children. I have Yinka Kibamdele is a cloud technology expert with robust experience in technology sales, advisory, and support services. She is also passionate about younger generation and supports them to build a successful career through mentorship, career guidance support. Yinka holds an MBA from the University of Aberdeen and she is happily married with two amazing kids. So our next guest is Elsie Eloa. She is a creative and seasoned serial entrepreneur with over 15 years experience in the business startup and development. The field of businesses she has vetted, interest, and tie-in span from the fashion industry to the world of media and filmmaking. She is the CEO of LC Trend and Strong Mom Media Production. Elsie is a single parent of two amazing daughters. Elsie has been a writer for many years and will publish a first book based on her life experience called The Phenomenal Single Mom. My next guest is Oke Ifajayi. She's an experienced and evidence-based educational entrepreneur and startup business consultant. She founded Busy Mind Center in a quest for a more inclusive education for all children. She currently does some work with the Office of Education Quality Assurance Lagos State, and she's one of the executors of the Steam Up Lagos project. Oke Ifo is a purpose-driven educator and business professional, a writer, a capacity development and a performance coach, and a sought-after speaker. She holds certification from Harvard Graduate School of Education, a Rutgers Business School, New Jersey, and evidence-based education in the United States. She's married and blessed with two amazing kids. So welcome my amazing guests. I'm super happy to have you all here.
It's great to be here.
Thank you.
We are honored to be here.
I'm sure.
It's nice to be here as well.
As we all know, the conversation is so dear to a whole lot of parents, right? So the impact of social media on children. So I just want to ask Elsie. So so I want to know, the children have access to a mobile phone, and if yes, so why do you allow them to own a mobile phone?
Okay, so I have two daughters. One is 13 going on to 30 and the other one is 9. So the older one has a mobile phone. before the pandemic, the deal was she wouldn't have a phone until she was 15 because, for me, I have a morbid fear of, the access to social, all the platforms and all of that. But with the pandemic, we had to because the schools went online. They started to create groups on WhatsApp and all of that. So I had to give her a phone. My younger daughter doesn't have one, but yeah, that's it. So the older one has, the other one doesn't.
So how about you, KK?
Yeah, both my children have phones because, again, when they turned 11, actually, we give them phones. And it was important because, one, they need to understand the fact that how to use phones is important. And we needed to teach them how to be on phones, what to do, what not to do, and then just helping them understand the fact that that's the future, right? So we can't run away from it.
So the driver is not the COVID-19, it's just
no, for us it wasn't the
center.
COVID-19. No, it was a family. It was our family value system, and how we wanted our children to relate with the world, because that's what it is. So that was it for us.
Okay. So how about you, Yinka?
Same here. My son is 11. My daughter is 8. So I think similar to what she said, I discussed with my husband that we would get our kids mobile phones when they get to college. So that's between age 11 and 12. So we got my son a phone. However, my daughter got her phone during the pandemic. She's 8, going to 9. And of course, we felt she needed a phone anyways for her online school and all that. So that was what prompted us actually.
Okay. So for you, do you ever consider them having access to social media, even the fact that they own a phone? Have you ever thought about it? Okay, me allowing my child to own a phone, will I allow them to have access to social media? Or another question, and let me even put it this way, are you open to them having access to social media?
Absolutely not. I mean, and I don't see any parent, knowing what the harm social media is actually doing right now, would give open access to the children. So I'm very much aware. I'm a technology person, so I have an understanding of what these kids are open to. So number one, that was a huge dilemma for us as parents when we're handing phones over to our children, because we knew that we had extra work to do. We needed to be more deliberate in terms of monitoring what and what they don't have access to. So what they have access to is another topic of deliberation entirely. But to your question, of course I'm aware, and we are, myself and my husband know that we have a task, we have a role to play in terms of monitoring the content they have access to.
So I would say, what's your opinion about it? So your child, are you open to that for your child, or your children, your girls, to have access to social media?
For me, I think it's a no. I'm not open to it. But do they have access to social media? The older one has more access to social media than the younger one. The younger one, for me, she doesn't have a phone, so her permission is extremely limited by choice, right? The older one has access, controlled access, I would like to say. But you see, I also find, for me, this thing might have a thing to do with their personalities sometimes. My older one, her personality is completely different from my younger one, and she's the sort of person, when you sit down and have an agreement, 90% probability that she would hold on, she will honor that. So we've discussed, okay, so you have to be, if you want to be on TikTok, they have age, registrations and age limits and all of that. So I think the only social media account she has access to is TikTok. The under 13, allowance, or So yes, she has. The younger one is not permitted to have.
Oh, thank you for that. How about Kiki?
So I have a very different view to these things, because the reality is they will have, go on social media. And if you look at the way the world is right now, to be honest, they don't go to each other's houses. Where they meet is where on social platforms. So we need to understand that, and instead of stopping them from going to where there's harm, I believe in preparing them for where harm is. So my daughter is 15 and my son is 13, right? And so they are on social media, but I know their accounts. I'm following their accounts. I see where they go to. From time to time, I'm like, oh guys, come on, let me see your phone. And that was an agreement once again, before they got on the social media platforms. And then we need to understand that WhatsApp is also social media.
Right.
Right? So when you think about it, so are they on certain social media accounts? No. but they are on TikTok. They do have an Instagram account, which they don't post anything on. They just wanted to be there to see what is there. And I'm like, okay, no, that's fine. But again, before they went on any platform, we sat down and had a talk with them. There is cyberbullying. There is a lot of people who target young children, young adults. And so those were conversations we had with them. The what's and the what nots. I believe in empowering children. I'm not going to say to my child, don't go into the kitchen because you get hurt. No. I would say when you go into the kitchen, these are the things that you need to do. And so for me, that's my attitude towards social media.
So I kind of like, sorry to interject, I kind of like what you said about you told them sometimes to just check what's up.
Absolutely.
So you know that sometimes these children know that we're going to check them, right? They kind of prepare themselves. So how do you prepare yourself? How do you control some site that they shouldn't go into? As a parent, you know some pop-up that do come up without you even want to click on it.
Yes.
Like before you know it, it checked
It's
on
there.
it. So how do you control that?
So the reality is you can't control the pop-ups, right? Except you have, so what we have done, for example, is we have things like K9, we have internet security, which they have on. And again, we've told them if something pops up, you might see a naked lady, for example. You might see porn sites. So it's things that we have said to them so that they know. And I don't think it's a game because some of these things come as games, especially when they're targeting and targeting young children. So we have to let them know when it pops up and you don't need to be there, close it. Right? And then from time to time, we take the phone, we check the history. And you know, the way it is right now, everything is linked to Google. So I can actually we have the Google family account where I can check what they're doing online. So it's not so much me stopping them, but helping them understand that when you go to the university, I won't be with you. My daughter is going to university next year. I'm not going to be with her. But the values that she has learned going is what's going to move her forward. Right? So that's how, we work with our children.
So I think I'm enjoying this conversation. So Yinka, what is your own opinion about what she said?
So I think it's also very interesting because our kids have different ages.
Right.
So she's got a 15-year-old, which is fantastic.
Maybe she said that children have access to phone from age 11. Am I correct?
But they joined,
they joined
social media a little later,
Right.
which I think is the right thing. So for me, my first son is 11, and my daughter is 9. I don't see what he's doing on Instagram or TikTok or even on Facebook, as far as I'm concerned. So I've also educated him to let him know what this whole thing is about. And in my head, I'm thinking, what is the value of WhatsApp? So WhatsApp is on his phone actually. And of course, we have just a few family members that are on WhatsApp. And I've also educated him, you don't chat with a stranger. If anyone sends you a message and you're not aware of who the person is, don't respond. And that's fine. He knows all that as well. But in terms of Instagram, Facebook, TikTok and all that, it's a no-brainer. And he understands. Maybe I can't say this is when I'm going to allow him, but maybe maybe in a few years, maybe 1 or 2, and I see the need and what he's missing if he's not on this site. Because the truth of the matter is that the earlier we expose them to these things, the tougher. I know it's a reality we have to embrace, but how ready are we as parents? So she mentioned something very critical. There's a family Gmail account that is linked, so you can actually follow all the sites. So if he goes to a funny site, she can see it, I can see it. So I think it's a mixed.
Um,
but are you also aware that these children, they are so technology in tune that they can actually bypass all that?
So for someone like Inka, maybe she's, a bit more techie than I am. We had a previous conversation where I told you about a friend's child, and this child was up to the most unbelievable stuff at the age of 12. So I was worried because, so basically my first daughter met her at a function, they exchanged numbers. Then she didn't have a phone. She wasn't allowed to have a phone. So if people want to reach my kids, they take my number. So this girl had my number. And maybe unconsciously, maybe she just saved it as my daughter's name. And the sort of things I saw her put on her status had me extremely worried. So I called my daughter. I'm like, are you aware? She's like, I don't have a phone, I'm not. So I called the friend who, my friend who is her mom's friend. And I'm like, okay, so my kids are exposed to your kids. And your kids are exposed to that girl. And she was a sweet little child as far as I was concerned. But I knew better at this point. So I'm like, so because my kids are exposed to your kids, I need you to, look into this. By the time the girl's mom was hearing about it, left to the girl's mom, this was a saint of a child.
Oh my goodness.
This was a saint of a child. So in my mind, I'm thinking, what, did she block him? I still don't know what it is that she did. So it's okay for us to actually think we can control, but really, how much can we control? I agree with KK where she says you have to communicate, you have to dialogue, but we also need to remember that our children have a mind of their own.
Absolutely.
We try to form the most responsible children, and we hope that we achieve that. But in the process of getting there, they would experiment. So this experimentation, where does it leave us? What damage is done in that process? Because yes, I agree that.
In fact, Elsie, before you actually go to go further, because
I'm taking it.
It's no. It's actually going to my next my next question. So, how worried as a parent? I think I'm going to ask KK this question. How worried are you as a parent to allow your children to be connected 24/7?
So they're not connected 2/7. That's the first thing. I wanted to put that there. They're not connected 2/7 because they do have work to do, right? And in terms of how worried I am to have them on social media, I mean, I have a healthy dose of worry, to be honest. But I do realize that if they don't experiment with me, they can be doing it when they go and visit a friend. So I'd rather they were experimenting where I could check, right? There's something we've done with our children, and people always find it like, for real, my children don't lie to us. Right from when they were babies. I said, if you lied to me, I would just go all this mental on you, right? So that's something that we've trained them, right, in terms of value systems. And that's what should drive families. Now, it doesn't mean, like Elsie said, that they're not going to experiment, right? Because, I mean, it's just different. I'm out of the house now, hey!
What are
But
they doing?
there's something that should be driving them from the inside. And that, for me, is, even though, like you mentioned, am I worried? Yes, I am. But I do want to believe that the same way I left my house and my mom was worried is the same way my children are going to leave my house. But how have I prepared them when they leave my house? That's the most important part. How open are we? What kind of conversations do we have in the house such that they can always come and have a conversation with me? So I'm worried, but I do know that they will come to me.
That's so great. I'm so loving it, but my kids are not going to be on it yet. So we're going to go on a short break, and then we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Hey there, have you subscribed? Please remember to subscribe to this channel. Welcome back to Be Inspired with me, Wumiela Bute. The conversation is still running, the impact of social media on our children. So I still have my guests here, they're drilling it down. You sit back, enjoy our conversation. So, Madam Hesse, I'm calling you Madam right now because the way you're looking at me right here.
I'm ready for it.
You're super ready for it. So, you talk about your older girl. She's turning 13 this year, right?
No, she's turning 14.
She's turning 14 this year. So, how will you be able to have that conversation with her being on social media? Have you started having that conversation?
Oh, wow. Okay. So the thing with being a single parent is our conversations started really early, right? Because this is us. I'm a single, I'm playing both roles and I'm aware of my limitations. So I realized that we had to do this together, because it's just myself. So we started to have conversations about literally everything really early. We've gone from the SEX conversations to social, everything, we've covered it, right? But the thing with conversations is it's ongoing, it continued. I always say to some people, see, having a child, toddler stage and all of that is really cute. But for me, that's not where the real challenges are. The challenges are when your children start to have a mind of their own, when they start to have form opinions of their, my first daughter is completely different from me. I mean, like, completely. So parenting her by itself is I'm learning. With my younger daughter, she's mini me. So it's easy for me to realize what I did as a child and check that and be like, this one, But with the older one, it's a strange land. So, this is oh my God, it's completely different. So the conversations are, sometimes I'm calling her for a conversation, she's like, Mom, not again. I'm like, again, no. Again, we do it.
So I get what you're saying, that meaning that you started this conversation much earlier, more or less like cover almost everything about the impact of social media, which side she should go and which side she should go. And if at all they found themselves that they have a bit of control. That is
so
amazing.
if at all they found themselves there, I've had issues with that. My children have actually had to see a therapy on certain things that they have encountered. Well, not on their social media platform. So okay, so this thing is, I've had nieces and nephews live with me, right? And then we all have nannies and all of that. We have a bit of a liberal household, and they go to my nieces and nephews' phones and all of that, and one of them had encountered pornography videos, and I had no idea till the sister came to tell me that. So I've had that issue. I've had to use a therapist. That is why for me, I'm like, how much do you really know? So this was not on her phone. This was nothing. This is my first response was I bawled, I cried like a till I had to speak to a specialist, and she's like, this is an everyday thing. I was in shock having to deal with pornography with my child. But this is the reality. I said we had to use a therapist because I realized I was aware that it wasn't something I could handle by myself. I mean, my role is there, you know what I mean? But it goes beyond me. And your kids, no matter how much we talk, let's be honest, they hold back some things.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I had to say to myself, Fidelia is someone you can talk to, you can tell, and the thing with, she's a professional therapist, she doesn't tell me what they say, but she tells me what she thinks I need to do going forward and all that. So I've had that challenge, I've had that bridge I've crossed or crossing, because I think we've crossed it, but apparently once you pop, you can't stop kind of thing, or, you just have to keep. So yeah,
wow, that's quite deep. So we'll get to that. So Yinka, you mentioned earlier that your child can be on the social media right now, all because of what? Why do you have that reservation?
So I think for me, and I mentioned, kids have different ages. So my son is 11. That's my first child. My daughter, as far as I'm concerned, she has no business there. By the way, everybody has to be educated. Anyways, as long as the child is like 4 or 5, we need to start telling them, talking to them about like what she said. We need to educate them, because somehow, even if they don't get the access through our phones, through their devices, they go to their friends' places. Some kids in school sneak in phones. Yep. These children do stuff. So education should actually be our first point of call. And then the second part is for our own to minimize the exposure. So for me, it's a two-way approach. Number one, the value system from the home. How are you educating the children? You need to let them know. Then number two is what's our own capacity? I like to try my own, as a parent. So I'm not going to say that because I've educated my child, I'm going to tell a 10-year-old child to go on Instagram. What are you doing there? Are you selling something? Are you buying something? So whatever that is not of value at that particular age, I think I'm not allowed you. What's the value? What's the value? So it's a two-way approach for me. Number one is let me do my own part as a parent and to say, you know what, you don't need this right now. This is what you need, which is our primary responsibility, by the way. And then on the other part, we should educate and say, you know what, even if peradventure you get across, you meet someone at a party, which you will anyways. So I think it should just be both. It should be we controlling the exposure, and then of course educating and creating a very solid value system, because that is critical. It's actually that value, that solid value system that takes our children, that carries them anywhere they go, whether in school, in the real world. Children pretend a lot. When you see them among their peers, sometimes when I see my son gisting, I'm like, really? So, and that's very typical of a child, because they like to express themselves when they find their peers, and that's where you see their true colors. So the value system, and sometimes when I see him argue with his friends about some things, I'm proud of who I've built him to be, because they're able to defend those things that are fought him, and that's very critical for us. So we shouldn't just say, oh, don't go here, don't go there. It doesn't work for the student. It doesn't.
So I think I kind of agree with what you said. You said something that really resonated with me. So because of it, allow this child to get on it, you want, or because of you feel that what is the value
Mhm.
For
they
you
add
right
into
now.
their life, which is very, very
At
important.
this stage of your
Like
life.
my friend, children the same age, they own a phone. Oh, my children should be able to own a phone. But you look at it as a mother. Do you
Mhm.
really have a need for it?
If you don't have any, why do you have it?
Well,
So
that
that's-
being said, I'm not sure that I completely agree with that because
Okay.
there's also the point of you don't want your child feeling lacking. It's a
So I
very
think
delicate
I'm going
balance.
to come to that. So
Right.
I want to say
That's so
know.
Like, it's so interesting.
Yes.
So, and it's always been a point. In fact, this what she mentioned has always also been sometimes when I'm having a discussion with my husband, and he's saying that he doesn't, and I'm trying to weigh like, okay, you also don't want a child to have a sense of complex.
Yes.
Because there's something
Like
about
parenting.
yeah, there's
Yes.
something about what they are supposed to. But however, we also need to let them know that what are the basics and the things you need right now.
This is why.
And this is why. So it's not because I don't like when you give them that understanding, which is what you mentioned, you highlighted that you need to speak to them and say, you know what, I'm not buying you this right now.
Just so that
Just-
you can be a part of the Jones.
Exactly.
You got it.
So it gives him the confidence to say that it doesn't mean my parents can't have it, but they're not just, my mom is not just going to buy it because I don't, and I've heard my son say that a lot of times. There was a time he told me he wanted a particular sneakers, something, I don't know the name, like and it was so expensive, like over 300. And I'm like,
Wow.
okay, whether I can afford it or not, that's not even the point. You're still in year 5. I'm gonna buy that maybe later. So I explained to him, and so when he went for a party and one of his friends, he was like, I don't have it, but I'm fine. I'm cool with what I have. My mom says I don't need it right
Yeah.
now.
So you're trying to build a self-confidence
Exactly.
to be able to defend themselves.
Because
not
in
the
the real
pressure
world,
life, the
yes.
real world life.
Yeah, because
I don't think-
that's what social media is.
It's
That's
all
what
about.
Instagram right
That's
now.
what it is.
Yeah.
So in fact, I'm
life
taking you
doesn't exist.
I want to take you guys So the pre-parent, you all agree that your child, like not agree, all your kids on a phone except for the younger one.
Yes.
Elsie and Yinka.
Absolutely.
So as a parent, how do you control it? Like, as at what point do you allow your child to be on their phone? And then as at what point do you time out?
Deep breath.
So the question goes to, I think it's going to go to Kiki.
Deep
Okay,
breath.
yeah.
So this honestly is a deep breath moment, right?
I know,
Because
right?
when you've gone to bed, they can be back on their phones.
Mm.
That's the truth. So I mean, we time it for them and say, you know what, if you're going to spend 10 hours reading, then you should spend 5 hours on your phone, so to speak. But
I think
does that
Keke's-
really happen?
Keke's parental is so like 24/7. I'm still living
So
on
the
Saturday.
reality is,
My
because my children are older.
Yeah,
Yes,
I think so. That's
if
why.
not, right?
Mhm.
We would. There will be a break in that relationship.
Yeah.
Because
I
they
agree.
feel, you know what, this parent doesn't love me, this parent doesn't care as much about me, right? So we do time them, but we do understand the fact that we cannot always have that control. And we'll be lying to ourselves if we highlight control over trust.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So that trust always comes in. And yes, you're right. There's some times where, maybe during exams, for example, or a test, we take the phones. We
Absolutely.
tell them, okay, this phone needs to be here. We put it in the drawer and we lock it up. And they're like, Mommy, can I just check? I just want to do my streaks. And I'm like, streaks for what? That. You know, but I do understand how they feel. Because the same way children are going for a party. Let's go back to maybe the 2000s and 2005.
Our
The
time.
same way they were going to, I know, right? The same way they were going to a party and they want to go to that party is the same way maybe if they're all on a particular social media site, they also want to have a presence there. So you need to explain to them why they do not have to be there,
Yeah.
why they need to be there for maybe 30 minutes, while other people are there for hours. So it's about helping them
I
understand.
think I'm going to
their
ask you a
control.
question. So the question I want to ask you now. So as a parent, sometimes we want to control our child. Don't be on this phone 24/7. Time out and all that. As a parent, do you have a timeout?
I do.
I think I'm going to ask Elsie this
Elsie.
question.
I think this brings me to one of the first things I said earlier on, that personalities
Different.
play a very important role. I do not have any time off for my first daughter, but this is the most studious. I mean, you know her. She's all about her books. So she doesn't need a timeout from my end because she says I'm studying. I mean, and okay, so before she had her phone, all their groups are on my phone. You need to remember that. So I can see, and me, I go through it. Oops, she better watch this. Okay, so I go through it, and there are times when I'm like, I'll go and open her room door. It's like, is my daughter still alive? Because for a whole day she's not on.
Yes.
When they're doing the phone thing, nothing else matters.
No, my daughter is not on the platform. She's
Oh,
studying.
right. Oh,
So
okay.
her personality completely allows me to not give her because she's not obsessed with social media. She's not interested. She wants to, her grades are there, but that's who she is. See, you see that one that doesn't have phone. God give me the strength before she gets it. Because that's, so
Yeah,
I
so
don't have time
as
out
a
for
parent, as a mom, do you have a timeout?
Yes, we do. So for instance, during the week, my kids don't have access to their phones.
You have a timeout.
So no, you're talking about
Yeah, you for your child and yourself. Do you have a timeout? Because sometimes we tell our
how do you
child,
for my child and myself.
So
Okay,
if you're telling your kids to have a timeout, but you have a timeout.
So I have not said, I can't say that I have drawn a timeout for myself, but I know that once I'm about to go to bed, I tell myself that you can't, and then of course I want to study my Bible as well. So I just try to just put a wrap. Sometimes I get fascinated, these social media, but I just give it a halt. It's not like I've told someone to cane me if I don't go on time off. But can we compare it to can we compare that to comparing no, we
Comparing them
can't.
to
We can't. It can't be apple for apples. Trust me. You have an understanding of you have control over your life. A child does not have control.
you know the reason why I said that? I've been with one of my friends, and then she told her daughter, like, "Oh, you're always on the phone 2/7," and
After I responded,
and then she didn't say anything. And then I was like, even you as a parent, you're my friend, I'm with you, you're on your phone 2/7, even while with me, right? So sometimes we just want our child to do something, but they are watching us.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
that's why our children
are-
yes, they're watching us, and we are somewhat accountable to the fact that they're watching us. But as Yinka said, it's not apples for apples.
it's not.
Because for me, when I have a job at hand, I have a creativity or
She's
whatever,
got work to do.
I'm not going to touch my phone. I know that. When I need to pray, I'm not touching my phone. So I already have inbuilt control systems. It's not about drop your phone at 10 o'clock. No, I'm an adult.
But they are
I
not
think
adults.
what I do is that I have alarms on my phone because I believe very strongly in empowering. So I have alarms on my phone, for example. If I'm going to go on somewhere and I need to be doing something, my alarms will ring and I will show it to my children. You see, this is how I control it. So if I, as an adult, I don't want to get sucked in. So you, as a child as well,
Right.
you need to have those
Measures.
mitigating, to ensure that because you can't get sucked in. So that's how I control it.
So I think we're going to go on another short break, and then we'll be right back. Madam Helsa, stop looking at me.
My older daughter's choice of social media is TikTok, and personally, I do find that TikTok has, for me, more positives than any other social sites because they have the dance TikTok, they have food TikTok, they have educational, and she's into art, she's into anime and art, so she gets a lot from that. But then you need to remember that I'm saying this one is not interested in the frivolities of life. So my daughter was mad at me. We had an argument, and she blocked me on WhatsApp. So there was that place where I laughed and I thought, so I noticed that I was trying to communicate with her and I didn't see her profile picture anymore, and it was just one thing.
I mean, my daughter left the family chat. She was on second. We have a family group. She just walked out of the group.
So negative.
My friend,
You are being rude. You cannot.
Call
I
it
cannot
out
be talking
right
to you
back.
and then you're walking away.
Yes.
It's impossible. You can't say you were upset because of what daddy said, daddy posted, and because of that you exited the group. You're joking. Right? So those things still have to come in because the children need to understand self-control. And that's what is going to help them with managing social media presence and what they do on social media.
Also, as parents, we should also know that these kids are different from when we were raised. So we should carry them along when we're dishing out instructions to them. So you give them instructions, and you let them understand why you're doing that. For instance, he has some friends that have YouTube channels. So my friend has a YouTube channel, he's doing this. Is it harmful? No. But do you need it? So I asked him, what do you want to do on YouTube channel? He said, not really that, my friend. I said, exactly. But you don't have anything on it because your friends are on, you want to be on it. It's a no-no for me. So if you have a justification for having a YouTube channel, myself and God, I'm going to check it and you go ahead.
I love it.